Hello, and welcome to Organizational Conflict of Interest and Ethics Training. Ethics are the basic concepts and principles of decent human conduct or the discipline dealing with what is good and bad and with moral duty and obligation. As an employee or contractor to FutureNet Group, you are expected to abide by FutureNet Group's Code of Ethics. Not only is this the right thing to do, FutureNet Group as a government contractor is required to follow a strict set of guidelines pertaining to ethical behavior as outlined in the Federal Acquisition Regulations, commonly known as FARs. This is Jim. He's one of the decision makers regarding which subcontractor will be selected for an upcoming multi-million-dollar contract. Before the decision is made, somehow a representative from one of the subcontractors gets Jim's cell number. After an introduction and a little small talk, the representative lets Jim know he has 4 tickets to the big game, but the rep can't use them because of another commitment. He offers Jim the $1,000 seats. Jim smiles. What do you think Jim should do? Once this rep introduced himself, should Jim have even continued the conversation? The FAR program requires ongoing training for employees of companies that are federal contractors. This training course will cover the main points of the required ethics and conflict of interest topics. FutureNet is committed to performing its work under all government and commercial contracts free of any conflict of interest, organizational and individual, actual and perceived. Mitigating OCIs is a key business operating principle for FutureNet and a critical imperative for the success of the company. This policy is to be upheld at all levels of the organization, and in furtherance of this policy, FutureNet emphasizes the importance of OCI mitigation to employees, subcontractors, and customers through written and verbal means, such as this training. FutureNet is confident that as we strictly follow our OCI avoidance policy, as we review and disclose related contracts, and perform an assessment, carrying out a mitigation plan for related contracts, our customers will be assured that no organizational and/or personal conflicts of interest are involved in any of our contracts. What exactly is an organizational conflict of interest, you may ask? Let's discuss that. An organizational conflict of interest results when a person is unable or may potentially be unable to render impartial assistance or advice to the customer. Typically, this is because of a pre-existing relationship, or it may be for another reason. And OCI results when the person's ability to be objective in performing the contract work is or might be impaired. And OCI also results when a person has an unfair competitive advantage on a present or future acquisition because of other activities or relationships with someone, and or access to proprietary or non-proprietary proposals or other industry information. As an employee of a government services contractor, it is essential to avoid the potential for conflict of interest. OCIs can arise under any type of contract and can prejudice the best interests of the government and void the rights of FutureNet and its subcontractors to participate in future procurements. All FutureNet employees are responsible to ensure the work performed and services delivered are limited as described here, in accordance with the requirements of FAR Subpart 9.5. FutureNet and its subcontractors shall not release, disclose, or use information in any way that would permit or result in disclosure to any party outside the government. This includes information provided by the government during or as a result of performance of a contract, even after the conclusion of the contract under which the information was obtained. Further, the prohibition against release of government-provided information extends to cover such information regardless of whether it remains in its original form. This remains in effect for 3 years after completing performance of the specific contract. FutureNet and its subcontractors shall not furnish to the government as a major component supplier, either as prime contractor or as a subcontractor, any system, component, or service which is the subject of the developmental work to be performed under the contract during the performance and for a period of 3 years after completion of the contract. The success of FutureNet's OCI plan depends on the early identification of OCI issues and timely communication among impacted subcontractors and government customers. Careful review of task orders and other contracting work assignments is the first line of defense. This review begins with the project leader and is the primary responsibility of the appropriate program manager. However, any FutureNet employee who discovers an actual or potential OCI shall immediately notify the program manager or the CEO in writing. Subcontractors will file a notice with copies to FutureNet. The following are options FutureNet and its subcontractors can consider when preparing a plan to avoid, resolve, neutralize, or mitigate OCIs. This list is not meant to be exhaustive or to prohibit any other type of mitigation that may be created by the parties to appropriately address an OCI situation. Options are firewalls, separating or segregating management and operating personnel reporting lines. This may include personnel transfer restrictions between divisions, may also include physical or geographical segregation, including security measures. Confidentiality non-disclosure agreements by employees, which specify how employees should safeguard sensitive information and how to treat requests for information from anyone other than an individual with a need to know who is working on the particular contract. Recusal, foregoing future contracting opportunities that would create a potential or actual OCI. Training for personnel, immediate or ongoing. Document and information control, which includes storage, handling, and transfer procedures for sensitive information and documents. It can be as simple as keeping sensitive documents in specific colored folders for easy identification, or keeping all electronic documents in one file and limiting access. Internal audits or review of record keeping and/or reporting. Subcontracting prohibitions or limitations, which may include flow down of mitigation procedures and plans to subcontractors and teammates, or using a designated subcontractor. FutureNet Group is committed to conducting business in strict compliance with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations, and with high standards of ethics and honesty. In furtherance of this important policy, which applies to everyone who acts on behalf of FutureNet, including employees, executive officers, directors, consultants, part-time workers, and interns, FutureNet hereby adopts this code of ethics and is committed to the following. FutureNet will foster a reputation for honesty, fairness, respect, responsibility, integrity, trust, and sound business judgment. Because FutureNet is the sum of the men and women who work here, all of FutureNet's owners, officers, employees, and agents are expected to adhere to high standards of personal integrity and avoid illegal or unethical conduct. FutureNet's success in the marketplace, as well as its reputation as an honest and ethical contractor, depends on carefully maintaining the confidentiality of its own proprietary, confidential, and trade secret information, as well as the proprietary, confidential, or trade secret information of others, such as subcontractors or teammates, that may come into FutureNet's possession during the course of our business. All confidential, proprietary, or trade secret information received by the owners, officers, employees, or agents of FutureNet is to be kept strictly confidential and divulged only to individuals within FutureNet with both a need to receive the information and the appropriate authorization to receive it. FutureNet and its owners, officers, directors, employees, and agents must never permit their personal interests to conflict with the interests of the company, its clients, or affiliates. Officers, directors, and employees must be particularly careful to avoid the following: representing FutureNet in any transaction with others with whom there is any outside business affiliation or relationship, accepting payments, gratuities, or gifts from those seeking to do business with FutureNet, and using FutureNet's proprietary or confidential information, including client contacts and client lists, to advance private business or personal interests at the expense of the company, its clients, or its affiliates. The U.S. government is our largest customer, and we must respect the special laws surrounding contracting with the U.S. government. With few exceptions, U.S. government agencies have strict prohibitions against their employees accepting any business courtesies. Therefore, except as otherwise permitted by law or regulation, we are prohibited from offering or providing any business courtesy, including meals, entertainment, travel, lodging expenses, or any other thing of value to any U.S. government employee or representative. Modest refreshments such as soft drinks, tea, coffee, and fruit offered on an occasional basis in conjunction with business activities are acceptable. If you deal with representatives of a particular federal agency, you are responsible for complying with that agency's standards of conduct. However, we may provide meals, refreshments, or entertainment of reasonable value to non-government persons in support of business activities, provided the business courtesy is not offered for something in return for the courtesy, or the courtesy does not violate any law, regulation, or the standards of conduct of the recipient's organization. With respect to all federal government contracts, subcontracts, and related transactions, FutureNet and its employees must strictly avoid any conduct that may violate the integrity of the federal procurement process. FutureNet and its employees may not directly or indirectly offer, give, or promise to any government official any money, gratuity, gift, bribe, kickback, or other thing of value. May not solicit or obtain, prior to contract award, any proprietary or source selection information from any government official. May not disclose proprietary or source selection information to any person outside of FutureNet other than an individual authorized by the contracting officer to receive such information. May not engage in employment discussions with a procurement official or make an offer or promise of future employment or a future business opportunity to a procurement official. May not make inaccurate representations with respect to size, status, affiliation, or cost or pricing information. FutureNet believes that competition, whether for government or commercial work, must be fair and honest. To that end, FutureNet's officers, directors, and employees will refrain from gathering competitor intelligence by illegitimate means and refrain from acting on knowledge that has been gained in such a manner. In addition, FutureNet's owners, officers, directors, and employees shall seek to avoid exaggerating or disparaging comparisons of the services and competence of their competitors. For FutureNet, accurately charging labor, material, and other costs is essential to maintaining the integrity of customer billings, financial reporting, and planning. Deliberate mischarging of work time or time card fraud violates company policy and the law. Knowingly charging an unauthorized account or cost objective, or knowingly approving such mischarging or shifting of costs to an improper account is prohibited. Each employee is responsible for ensuring that labor, travel, material, and other expenses are recorded truthfully. Federal legislation prohibits contractors from obtaining payments from the federal government through the submission of false claims or statements. FutureNet strictly prohibits all owners, officers, directors, employees, and agents from making false claims or statements to the government. All of FutureNet's certifications, invoices, progress payment requests, and other payment-related statements made to the government shall be verified as true, accurate, and complete prior to submission. FutureNet encourages its employees to become involved in civic affairs, including political matters. However, employees' political activities, including but not limited to campaign contributions, must be on an individual basis, on the employee's own time, and at the employee's own expense. When an employee speaks on political issues, the employee must make it clear that the comments are made on the employee's own behalf and not as a representative of FutureNet. FutureNet is an equal opportunity employer. FutureNet shall strictly abide by all applicable federal, state, and local non-discrimination laws and regulations. FutureNet's owners, officers, directors, and employees shall disclose all actual or suspected unethical, dishonest, fraudulent, or illegal behavior, including violations of this code of ethics or company policies and procedures, to a member of FutureNet's management team. FutureNet will not permit any retaliation for the making of any such report. Violations of this code of ethics shall result in discipline, including possible termination of employment. These consequences may apply not only to employees who violate the code, but also those who condone misconduct, fail to report or take reasonable measures to prevent, detect, or address misconduct, or seek to retaliate against those who, in good faith, report potential misconduct. The degree of discipline relates in part to whether there was a voluntary disclosure of any ethical violation and whether or not the violator cooperated in any subsequent investigation. FutureNet's owners, officers, directors, and employees understand that anything purchased by FutureNet is the property of FutureNet, and that utilizing FutureNet property for personal use is a violation of this code of ethics. Employees further understand that taking or borrowing FutureNet resources or even temporarily removing FutureNet resources from the corporate office could be considered theft and result in disciplinary actions up to and including termination, along with potential criminal charges. If you have any questions regarding the FutureNet Group ethics or organizational conflict of interest policies, please contact the Legal or Human Resources Department. Congratulations! You have completed your training on organizational conflict of interest and ethics.